Anthem is quite the game to discuss. A new experience from the talented team at Bioware. The new IP from a studio that has brought gaming some of its best. Mass Effect, Knights of the Republic, Dragon Age, some of these games are bona fide classics. Is it a worthy game considering the legacy? Is it a quote-unquote Destiny killer? Is it another letdown in the style of Dragon Age 2 or Mass Effect Andromeda? The answer to all of those questions is actually far more simple than it seems. A lot of thoughts about Anthem exist, some good, more than a few scathing, and many of them harping on various technical aspects more so than what Anthem actually is. Anthem builds on a foundation of Bioware's past to create something truly unique. It isn't Destiny, Warframe, or The Division. Those comparisons are made because they are easy and lazy. The looter-shooter term is thrown on any game with guns and collecting gear, and in any case has never actually described what any of those games are. Anthem's gameplay is built off of Mass Effect 3's incredible co-op multiplayer experience. In that mode, up to 4 players would pick a character class, choose a loadout, then engage in battles across various maps. It was expansive, had a ton of depth, and really pushed Mass Effect's combat into the stratosphere. Biotics, weapon selection, and character skills were honed to perfection, and it was easily one of the best co-op experiences ever created. That mode is at the root of Anthem's core structure. They took that mode and decided to build a completely unique and fully realized world to wrap around that tight and satisfying gameplay loop. Anthem places you in control of a character known as a freelancer. It's not the scale of some of Bioware's older creative character modes, but you do have a choice in terms of how they look. Freelancers are the men and women contracted to venture outside of Fort Tarsis in large exosuits called javelins. You will explore, fight, and protect what remains of a world left in ruin. This world is in ruin because the quintessential alien force has left the world unfinished. Yes, the trope of a highly advanced alien race leaving behind mysterious artifacts is back in full force in Anthem, but the approach is a bit different. Anthem isn't just the game's title, it's integral to the lore and fiction they've created. Shapers were a race of advanced creatures who attempted to use the Anthem of creation, a power that can literally create and destroy life itself. Nobody quite knows which came first, the Shapers or the Anthem, but the remnants of that time has created a beautiful, overgrown world Anthem takes place in. Sweeping vistas and gigantic waterfalls lead to strange ruins that make your javelins look small in comparison. It really captures the scope and awe and has made me want to explore the game's location and lore. Some places are breathtaking and almost feel like concept art was ripped straight from an artist's canvas and placed into the game directly. Those environments are explored in perhaps my favorite part of Anthem, and that's the feel of piloting and controlling your javelin. Bioware has finally delivered on something Iron Man fans have been waiting decades for. The feel of stepping off a cliff, going into freefall, and then activating all thrusters and launching forward at high speed, and taking in these locations from the sky. The weight of the javelin, the satisfying thud when you land, or the sound of your turbines activating and giving you thrust are incredibly satisfying. After 65 hours, the simple act of controlling my character is just as much fun and satisfying as it was when I started the game. It truly cannot be said enough how innovative and great the flight system and controls all look, feel, and how they are explored with the game. The rest of the controls, although they hold up well enough, won't have the same impact the flight system does. The on-the-ground portions of Anthem function well enough. Guns feel weighty and have solid sound design. The game even allows the option to increase the volume of successful bullet hits on enemies, which is a nice touch more games should take a note of. However, whether it's the fault of networking or general latency, the actual physical impact guns have on enemies is rather ho-hum. Even when wielding a massive grenade launcher or an epic shotgun, getting right up on enemies and emptying the clip never quite satisfies the way it should. The look, sound, and feel of each gun never translates well to enemy hit reactions. Most of them keep on trucking and can care less about the gigantic minigun you are shredding them with. This aspect of Anthem is by far its weakest point. Even when obtaining masterwork and legendary weapons, the enemies never give across the feeling of something truly devastating attacking them. The gunplay isn't terrible, it just pales in comparison to the powers and abilities each javelin brings to the table. On high-level guns, they feel like a stopgap, a bridge to hold you over until your next round of abilities are ready to use. Those abilities are where the true power is felt in combat. Each of the 4 javelins all bring a large variety of gear and attacks alongside their own combo detonator style and ultimate moves. These abilities and attacks truly feel awesome. Running around as a Colossus with my shield out as a fellow Storm is flying overhead and launching huge arcing bolts of lightning to enemies in front of me is an incredible sight to behold. When Anthem is at its best, it feels like one-take fight scenes from the Avengers films. All 4 classes in lockstep, coordinating attacks and darting around huge battlefields, leaving destruction in their wake. It feels like a dance, carefully choreographed to get through the tougher encounters and requiring coordination and teamwork in a way other games in this genre just don't ask of the players. Anchoring the game's strong combat is the return of Mass Effect's combo system. Each character class has several primer and detonator abilities. Ideally in combat, you want to try and prime a target, and then detonate them to create a combo which causes massive damage, giant enemy crabs not included. Each class is capable of doing one of those aspects themselves, and it works well enough, but Anthem truly shines when the team is working together to keep these combos chaining throughout each combat scenario. It's a thrilling and engaging system that rewards player skill, teamwork, and encourages unique builds which play off each other or can work when you're playing solo. The powers, teamwork, combo system, build diversity all make up for the lackluster gunplay. The combat is really good, but it could have been truly one of a kind if the gunplay matched up to the rest of the experience. As for the RPG side of things, each character can level up to 30, and you have several slots and gear you can equip. 2 weapon slots, 3 ability slots, and 6 components are the gear that will actually affect your power and score. As for cosmetics, Anthem is more Warframe than Destiny. Gear doesn't impart a new physical appearance for your javelin. Instead, you will unlock different armor pieces, vinyls, and you can choose the materials and colors of your different parts to make your javelin unique. These cosmetics can be acquired either via in-game coins or a currency called shards that you pay for with real money. So far the game's cosmetic options are slim to none, with only a couple of different armors and looks to unlock for each suit. More are coming when the game officially launches on the 22nd, and during a live Q&A, Bioware laid out plans for an in-game cosmetic system via strongholds and in-game activities. Regardless of future plans, Anthem does not offer nearly enough different looks to satisfy players who really want to dig into that aspect of customization. Only time will tell how far this aspect goes, but as right now, it really is lacking in that regard. Now that we've established some of the core gameplay and the systems it has, we can talk about my favorite feature of Anthem. Fort Tarsis is your central hub for everything Anthem. It's your staging point for each expedition, and where all of the drama unfolds as the story continues. In many ways, Anthem's narrative structure is very different than other games of this style. All of the freedom and flight and wow factor of the open world combat gets completely upended in Fort Tarsis. You're out of the suit and you're walking around in first person as you slowly walk to each character and begin to explore them and their roles in the fort. This is where the Bioware magic of old shows through, with the rich lore and characters abound. Halleck, your old freelancer partner. Owen, your cipher who is eager to get a javelin of his own. Bryn, a Sentinel member who has a tough time being social. The fort is home to so many characters, and all of them are brought to life with outstanding performances across the board. Most of their stories play out with a much more stripped down dialogue choice system. At most, you get a left trigger or right trigger response to most of the dialogue, and that's as far as the branching pathways go. Despite the simplicity on the surface, the choices and answers you select will make a difference in these character stories and how they develop over the course of the game. Some in-game missions and contracts will even feature different characters and dialogue based on your choices in the fort. Even your character, the freelancer, is a character unto themselves, and it really helps flesh out all of the stories Fort Tarsis holds. You can only go so far with a narrative centered around a silent protagonist, which Bioware wisely avoids completely because your character does have a voice and uses it often. It all feels very different than the usual save the world style of storytelling. Anthem doesn't feel like a trilogy. It felt to me more like a TV series. The smaller scale of the critical story path and the ancillary tales you participate in all feel like TV drama. It's a concept I didn't really think about, and if Anthem wants to continue as a service, then it's a model that could work well for its future. What the game does have right now, though, is an interesting story in of itself. It sets the table for this world, its characters, and plots. The villain is not truly fleshed out or meaningful in any way outside of its great visual design. The only thing of import he does is set the stage for all of the smaller character stories to take place in. A backdrop for your personal story to unfold, and this game does a great job at letting the fort and its characters grow as the player does. It's really awesome to experience, and it's been one of my favorite character stories in a game since the Mass Effect series. I loved always coming back to the tower and seeing what new characters showed up, what they had to say, and how they would play out their own journeys and grow alongside the freelancer. Matching the combat and storytelling are Anthem's absolutely fantastic visual and audio design. It's a drop-dead gorgeous game. It's easily one of the best looking games I've ever played. Small effects such as the heat wave from a javelin turbine are all incredibly detailed, and the whole world is rich with these small touches. When combat gets intense, it's a lot to take in, but it never gets messy in regards to visuals. For a game called Anthem, the sound design steps right up and does just as much of the visuals, if not more so. It's easily my favorite original score in a very long time, and the sound design adds a lot of punch to the game. Every time a combo detonates, you can distinctly hear it, and positional audio helps you keep track of where the enemies are attacking from, which helps out a ton, especially in the large outdoor battles. The audio and visual elements are intertwined. The anthem of creation is a force controlled by music, and the design echoes that sentiment through the entire game. Portals will distort and pulse like speakers. Audio cues and references to MIDI and synth distortion over voices near the anthem of creation are all excellent nods to the nature of sound and different forms of music. As an audiophile, the nerd in me got the best of me, and I enjoyed all the little touches and references to music and the creation of it. The only real blemish on all of this is the technical issues Anthem has. In my extensive testing, I've encountered several bugs ranging from small, like my character's arm glitching through my body, to large, such as sudden crashes to the desktop, or even worse, all of the sound dropping out. The bulk of the issues I encountered were mostly related to networking issues. Constant disconnects and having to leave the room and rejoin to get missions to load weren't as bad as others made it seem, but they certainly existed and were an annoyance. Since playing on the day one update for a few hours, I've yet to encounter these network issues, and several of the other issues I had have been cleaned up as well. However, the sound did drop out in my time of testing, and that is a big problem because not having sound at all is not an option, and it always requires a restart to fix completely. However, despite all the technical issues, the various crashes and times I've had to restart the game to get the sound working, it didn't deter me from playing on. The game itself ran great when I was actually in there, and most complaints seem to be about the game structure more than the technical problems themselves. The menus are convoluted, but they are pretty simple to navigate, and everything is presented clearly to the player. Not being able to open your inventory on the fly, it's a design choice, and plenty of other games have done this before. It didn't bother me in the slightest, and it was nice to keep the action going instead of pausing every 20 seconds while people sort through their gear every time they pick up a single item. For some, I can see how this can be a problem, but it honestly didn't bother me, and it never interfered with my ability to enjoy the game. Anthem, for me, is a great new start for Bioware. A lore-rich, co-op RPG with a fantastic combat engine and visuals to match. It's some of the most fun I've had playing with my friends in a long time, and if you have the chance, give it a shot with your crew. Average gunplay and a lack of visual customization doesn't prevent Anthem from being a great time. The real test will be if Bioware can keep up the cadence of delivering content on a frequent pace to keep the player base moving forward and prevent it from becoming stagnant. They have already laid out an extensive roadmap, but the launch day Anthem experience is fully featured and has a ton of content to get through. Strong alone, stronger together. Anthem is a fantastic action RPG experience for solo players or groups. Don't miss it. I give Anthem an 8.3. If they cleaned up the technical issues, I'd give it a little bit higher, but some of those things definitely can't be forgiven and need to be addressed. But I still had a great time with it, and it's an easy recommendation. I hope you guys enjoyed the review. My name is Nantox. Please check out the full written review at rectifygaming.com, and have a good day.
Oh